Good morning, everybody. This morning, I'd like to welcome you to TMIC's daily meditation, which we host Monday through Friday. And at the beginning of every meditation, we have a short talk. The theme of the meditations are in the macro theme of liberation, and we have many different talks that cover different aspects of attaining liberation. And then it follows with one of a few different types of meditations. These talks are derived from our larger body of work called Whole Life Architecture, which is our weekly program where participants are not only learning to become liberated for themselves, but also learning, once liberated, how to be a creator of their own life, to create a life by design, as opposed to merely tolerating a life by default. And today, what I'd like to chat about is, and we've talked about it a little bit over the last couple of weeks, the topic of suffering, the topic of resistance, and how we are in this state of suffering in our life until we're not. That our suffering itself is an act of our own creation. That which you feel you are suffering from in your life is an act of your own creation because you're recursively recreating it in your resistance to who you resist to become. And so we're always working with this outer world of effects, trying to change things outside of ourselves. And sometimes we can end up in a state like we were discussing the other day of spiritual bypassing, where we are even saying, well, I'm working on my inner world and I'm doing all the right things, reading the right books, attending the right seminars, I'm meditating. And all of that stuff is, of course, going to be helpful along the journey. But again, we miss the point. It isn't about doing. Whether your doing is external or your doing is internal, when we want to talk about attaining a state of liberation, liberation does not exist inside of a doing framework. Liberation can lead to certain doing, but certain doing cannot lead to liberation. That the experience and state of liberation is only one of being, not doing. And the being part of it is actually relinquishing the doing, letting go and surrendering, including letting go and surrendering your own self-critique and self-judgment, the I'm not enough part of you, or the I need to do more, or I'm not doing enough, or simply I'm not enough. But this is what needs to drop. What needs to drop is any disapproval that you have for who you are and how you show up. And that doesn't mean that you don't have aspirations or visions for the future of your becoming. But it means along the journey of your becoming, without attachment to where it leads, you are totally at peace, whole and complete with who you are today, with all of the areas of so-called improvement that you may be aware of. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, "The world talks about honoring the Tao, but you can't tell it from their actions. Because it is thought of as great, the world makes light of it, and it seems too easy for anyone to use." So the world talks about honoring the Tao, the path, the way. Honoring that path that is not about doing, but about being. Honoring the path that requires nothing from you and provides everything in return through your liberation. Everyone thinks it's great, says Lao Tzu. Everyone agrees this is the path, but you can't tell it from their actions. Why? Because it's not about their actions. And so then he goes on to say, well, the world then makes light of it because it's too easy for anyone to use. What do you mean I don't need to do anything? To improve myself, to improve my situation. The problem with your situation is that you think there's a problem with your situation. And again, this is the weird paradox of this whole thing for our brains. This doesn't mean that we aren't an always unfolding becoming, an opening. We're like a flower that is so tightly bound together as a bud. Most of society is so pent up and wrapped and tight, unable to open. And a flower is most beautiful when it is open, when it is what Osho referred to as loose and natural, when it allows itself to just be what it is. And the more the flower allows itself to be what it is, the more it is. And it creates this compounding effect. The flower doesn't need to do anything. On the contrary, when it is attached to its doing, it is tightly bound. It is doing non-opening. You think of a fist. How much energy and doing is required to grip your fist into a fist and to keep it there, to keep your fist clenched? Think of the amount of energy and focus that requires. Try to do that for not just a mere 5 or 10 minutes, but try to keep your fist closed for 10 hours. You wouldn't probably get an hour into it, and you would be begging for a release, to let go, to let your hand simply open. And our beings are this way. But we're so over analytical and criticizing of ourselves, so unapproving of ourselves, that we remain in most of our life like a tight, clenched fist, like an unopened flower. I can't open because they will see this, or I can't open because I don't want to see or experience this. And so all of our life force energy ends up trying to keep ourselves closed like a fist. And we manage that closedness. We protect it. We invest in it. I think of all the people today who are closing tighter and tighter into their own little tribes, not open to others that aren't like them, not open to others that have a different view of them, not open to the possibility, any possibility, outside of the rightness they are trapped in their own thinking, in their own being. And they defend it to the death. They will even, if they have the resources, build fortresses to hide inside of. Literally, billionaire bunkers are some of the biggest investments being made right now by the world's ultra wealthy. Bunkers. They're so incapable of opening to life, of opening to others, of opening to themselves, that they trap themselves like a tight fist in an underground bunker. This is a sign of illness. We have an ill society. Openness is a sign of health, and closedness is a sign of illness. The level of narcissism and neurosis that you have to attain to think that your freedom, that your personal liberation is only found in hiding in a bunker. I mean, how twisted of a mind do you have to be? Or that your freedom and your liberation is only found in a walled off compound, cut off from society. How twisted is this? But that's what the mind does. When we recursively double down and obsess over ourselves, as opposed to letting ourselves just breathe and be in full approval and acceptance of who we are. This is the outcome of a mind that is incapable of accepting and loving itself, of surrendering to itself. And it may look glamorous from the outside, but this is a very high state of suffering. The inability to be with people, the inability to be open with others, the inability to be open and honest with oneself, and approving leads the ego and leads us to create lives of forever grasping, forever doing, forever attaining, forever in the mindset of never enough, not enough. The idea that more is more. You know, in the universe, if you observe nature, there's more space than there is matter. But in the human dynamic, we fill up all the space so that we can't feel, all the space so that we're not open to possibility, all the space so that our mind is perpetually cluttered with ruminating thoughts. And our emotions are a bag of confusion, moving from one confused state to another, and outwardly distracting ourselves with more. We become addicts to the growth for growth's sake without limits approach to life. But in the nature, in the universe, there is more space. There's more no-thingness than there is matter. Because it is out of space that possibility is born. And so as we think about our own lives, where are you a clenched fist? There's very little space in a clenched fist, much less than an open hand. In your own life, where are you a clenched fist? Where are you filling the space in your life with busyness and doing so that you don't have to be with what is and with who you are? Where are you not in approval for who you are and how you are in this moment? Knowing that you will always be on the path of unfolding and becoming, that you are change in motion, that you will not be the same person tomorrow that you are today, but can you have approval for who you are today? Can you surrender to who you are today? Can you stop trying to change things and be in approval and acceptance, knowing that change happens without your action required? And then from this place, you can engage with life through a lens of play. Any action is a playful, creative opportunity to evolve and become and create something, but there's no attachment. We talk about it in whole life architecture as being committed but unattached. Committed to an ever-expanding opening, an ever-expanding, playful exploration of possibility without attachment. Attachment to the obsession of fixing ourselves. Where are you in your life not open right now? Where are you a closed fist? Where do you not have approval for yourself or others? Or where you are on your journey in life? As the Lao Tzu said, it seems so easy that people ignore it. They doubt it. It can't be that easy. You mean my happiness requires nothing from me? I simply have to open and be and accept. Because we've been conditioned and taught we're never enough. We should always be striving, always doing. Instead of our doing being an outflow of a surrendered, open beingness, our doing is a chasing after a state or an accomplishment to somehow fill the space within us as opposed to be with the space within us. So as we move into our observer, watcher meditation today, where we get to sit in space, to be with space, to distinguish ourselves from the emotional waves that flow within us and the never-ending and ceaseless thinking that our mind does, the chatter of our mind. For the next few minutes, we get to just be the watcher observer of them and not fill the space or chase our thoughts or emotions, and start to have an experience of what it means to just be with space, with nothing. No goal, no accomplishment, no judgment, no critique of the self, just pure blissful enjoyment of the self as you are today, in full approval, in full acceptance. And as you observe and watch your emotions and thoughts move by your mind's eye, in the back of your subconscious, allow the prompt of where am I not enough? Where am I in critique? Where am I judging of myself? Where am I a closed fist to life? What areas of my life are wanting to open and I am keeping them shut for fear of what I might discover? Fear of what I might have to let go of. You don't have to think that thought actively, just have it in the back of your mind as we move into our watcher observer meditation. Instead, allow yourself to just be and allow your mind and your emotions, your heart to expand and rest in the spaciousness of nothing to do. For the next few minutes, sit in a posture with your back straight. Take a few deep cleansing breaths and allow yourself to just settle. Be in a quiet, comfortable place in your house and just allow yourself this time to truly be with yourself and not be preoccupied with your doing. And I'll see you all in a few minutes. And welcome back, everybody. Reconnecting to the world without from the world within. Moving back into the field of doing from the spaciousness of nothingness, of being. And as you go about your day today, the invitation is again to explore where you are existing as a closed fist, where you are not open, where you are in resistance. The more you open, the more yes becomes a posture for life versus no. Because the more you open and connect to yourself and others, the more only that which aligns with who you are shows up in your field of possibility. So today, practice being open. And at the very least, you might discover where you are still closed. And where you are closed, whatever you are closed to owns you. And until you are liberated enough to be able to be with that which you are closed to and be open to it, it will continue to own you. So observe that today. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and we will continue our meditations